Good day, YouTube. JD here. Today is March 22nd, 2018. That means you have me as your host. This week's topic is a very controversial topic, and it's one that a lot of people have a lot of problems with. No matter what kind of magic you practice, whatever kind of magic you're into, whatever you were raised around, whatever you were inspired by, there's going to be some feathers ruffled by this question, and how some of us have answered it probably has already ruffled some feathers. I'll put the question down below as usual in the actual description down there. But to paraphrase it really quickly, the person who submitted the question entered a forum where magic was discussed, and the magic basically talked about or referenced the idea of using a love spell on somebody to make them fall in love with you against their will. It even talked about how elaborate the spell could be, where it talked about using this person's blood inside of food that would be given to their target to make them fall in love with them against their will. There's also concern in the question where perhaps if these things get out, our practices could be outlawed again and we could be persecuted as we were in days of old. So that's a lot of information in that question. So I'll address the first one as far as making someone fall in love with you. I would say that love spells are one of the first spells people really start watching and really trying to understand magic. It's one of the first things that come to mind when people who aren't even into magic, people who are Christian or what have you, when they talk about magic, they talk about the love spells for the most part. So it's not like it's unknown. I will say I have heard about people putting blood in their target's food to make them fall in love with you, but specifically it was menstrual blood, and I believe it was connected with hoodoo, actually. But to talk about how I personally feel, I can't speak for everybody on the channel, but how I feel about it, I'm an eclectic Wiccan shamanic witch, and the way my morals are set up, I would not do something to someone against their will unless I was attacked or felt as though I were attacked, or one of the spirits or entities and gods and goddesses that I deal with. If they told me I was being attacked, I would work to deal with that threat. As far as making someone fall in love with me against their will, I feel like it's wrong. I feel like the karmic damage to me isn't worth the person's love because they don't love me. When you really think about it, if you have to use a spell to make someone fall in love with you, that's not the person for you. Now, if you're looking for quick gratification, if you're looking for just sexual satisfaction, there are apps out there right now. For the women, there is Tinder. For the women, there is Match.com. For the guys, if you just want to get out there and get your sexual frustrations handled, you can use Grindr. I mean, that's what this stuff is for. If you really want someone to really, really love you, using a spell is not good for your karma, in my opinion, and it's going to hurt them ultimately. So if you really want their love, if you really love the person to their full core, why would you put them through that? They're not here for you. They're here for them. So for you to put that on them causes all kind of ripples in their karma and in your karma. So I would say stay away from it. That's my personal opinion. And that's what we're here to give you. We're here to give you our perspectives, how we feel about things. So personally, I think it's a bad thing. I wouldn't do it. Now, to touch on the aspect on whether or not it's possible, I believe it's certainly possible. Yes, you can use magic to accomplish all sorts of things, especially if it's touched or charged by a deity or entity or spirits. And that, again, is going to cause all kinds of problems and things for you, whether or not it's okayed by a celestial being or a demonic being. It's still not a good idea, in my opinion. As far as to address the aspect of this question where there was concern whether or not this information gets out there. This information is already out there. That's kind of the reason why we're discussing it. Yes, the person who submitted the question may have been talking about this in a closed forum, one in which you needed to be invited into, but you can find spell books on any shelf across America and the world that talk about spells to make people love you especially against their will. So it's already out there. I wouldn't be too concerned about it. A lot of people feel like the magic that we do is hocus pocus anyway. Some of them feel like we're just cosplayers or ravers or something, or just anime geeks. Depending on your background and your personal style of dress, sometimes people won't even take your religion seriously. So I don't think that it's anything that we need to worry about today. I believe if there's ever video footage of something like possessions, or video footage of someone communicating with spirits from the past or the ones that are dead, I think that will probably get the public eye that may turn critical on us, but only if it's hurting people. And again, I don't feel like a love spell would do that, because people, let's face it, people are banging like rabbits all over the place anyway. That's why those apps exist that I just kind of talked about. Sex is a normal thing. Forced sex, it's a bit of rape. It could be spiritual rape. It could be rape assisted by magic. But again, in mass, most Americans, because that's where we are, at least that's where I'm at right now when I'm recording this, most Americans don't really feel like magic is a real thing. They feel like they trust more in their God. They protect, the Christian folks feel like their God will protect them from these things. And for an alternative, instead of trying to force someone to fall in love with you, I've talked about using those apps. You can cast spells. You can work with entities that will help you become more attractive. That's probably the better route. If you want people to look at you and absolutely want you, I believe it's okay to use a spell to make yourself appear to be more sexually energetic than normal. To me, that's not the same as going against somebody's will. It's not the same as causing that person to fall head over heels in love with you from a magic standpoint. But to sharpen your energy, to make it seem like you're irresistible, that's no different than wearing cologne with hormones in it, right? That's basically what you're doing. If you're using magic to make yourself look good, to make you look good to everybody, to me, that's much better. That's a much better alternative for your karma and the person's soul and life here on the planet than making them focus directly on you, if that makes sense. So I hope I've addressed this question to the best of your liking. I would love to hear some comments down below. Would you use a love spell to force someone to love you unconditionally with no strings attached? Or would you use a love spell to force them to love you and it's nothing they can do? Is this something that you would do? Have you done it? These are things I want to see in the comments if you feel so inclined. Also, if you got a favorite dating app, one that you use when you are sexually frustrated, post a link down below as well. Maybe it'll help someone who's looking at this video and they happen to be a pagan and a magic practitioner, and they were thinking about taking that step toward ruining their karma, in my opinion, and they might see your app and they may follow it. And while we're on the topic, does anyone know of any dating apps for pagans? Because I can't find any. I can't find any at all. So guys, if you know any apps for pagans, please post that down below as well. Maybe that's even more important than the regular dating apps, because as you know, dating as a pagan can be hard depending on your particular circumstances. Some people may not want to date a witch. Some people may not want to date a shaman. I've offered to people to go on a shamanic journey and they split. They removed me from their Facebook, didn't talk to me anymore, because I assumed that they connected being a shaman and going on a shamanic journey as in abusing substances. And if you've listened to any of my past videos, you know that I don't really use any substances to go on my shamanic journeys. I use binaural beats, and I use music to actually help me, and drums to get me into the actual mood and the right state of mind to go into shamanic journey. So I've had that happen to me. I want to know if you guys have an app out there that can help our pagan community. Thanks so much for the question. I believe next week is subs week, so I will see you all back here next month. Thank you so much. Blessed be.